Chag Sameach. When I was living in Israel many years ago, one winter I decided to go to the Sinai Desert in Egypt, where many Israelis and people from all around the world go for Bedouin hospitality, and they have cheap resorts by the Red Sea that are just beautiful. But I remember one evening being there in the Sinai Desert, and I met a group of young Americans. This is long before I ever moved here. They were from Chicago. And they were Palestinian Americans who were coming to visit the area. And it was also a heated time. It was the Second Intifada. We had a special connection. One of them was actually still living there in Nazareth. The others were all from Chicago visiting. And at the end of it, I said, maybe one day, people like all of us are going to tear down all the walls and learn to live together. And I don't know if that conversation would be possible today. Maybe because from where I'm standing now and all that's happened just yesterday. But there's a reason why the prophet's vision of messianic times is of where enemies lie together and love flows between them. The wolf and the lamb, and all walk to Jerusalem, and the hearts of children are restored to the hearts of parents, and parents to their children. But this is the vision of the prophets, that humanity will one day learn peace, understanding, humanity. And even the book of Ruth that we read tomorrow, there's a taste of that world there, and the simple lives of ordinary people. Naomi and Elimelech, who go to live in Moab. Moab is one of Israel's worst enemies throughout the Tanakh. It's idolatry in the Torah. There's a whole episode at the end of the Balak and the talking donkey where the women ensnare the Jewish people. And then there's a following story, much longer story about the Midianite women, but many scholars think probably the same. Those are really the Moabites. The Torah says you cannot marry a Moabite. And yet, they're also the nation that lived just across those beautiful hills on the other side of the Dead Sea. In the book of Ruth, Naomi and Elimelech's sons take Moabite wives. And eventually they die, and Elimelech dies, and finally Naomi decides to return to Israel. And as we know the story, Ruth, her Moabite daughter-in-law, goes with her. Wherever you go, I will go. Your God shall be my God. I'm with you. And she does it to support her mother-in-law. She leaves her native land. It's so striking in the book, all the tensions you would expect between warring nations, between in-laws even, between a mother and father, between a mother and daughter-in-law, between when they end up in Israel, between far-flung refugees who are now come to be looked after by their far-flung relatives, between strangers and not strangers and those who are there. None of those tensions are there. Everyone treats everybody else with respect, with kindness, with generosity of spirit. Simple people, just through the losses and hardships they're all knowing, trying to find common ground and negotiating to make it happen. And this is the end of the book of Ruth, that there's this negotiation that happens to try and make everyone help everyone benefit from the situation. The final chapter, they bring Boaz and Ruth to the gates of the city where the elders are, and they discuss, because Ruth by right should have married a different relative, but they talk it out, and the other relative relinquishes his right, and Boaz takes Ruth, and that helps Naomi from being landless and stuck in poverty. And just everybody works to make it happen. Peace, understanding, harmony. And this in the end is the spirit of the revelation of Sinai itself. And for all the fire and all the ground-shaking experience, it was really about a revelation of love. The encounter between God and the Jewish people was meant to be about that kind of deep love and just peace in life. As the Midrash says, the clouds were like the chuppah and the Torah itself was the ketubah. It was a document to help the people live with that peace and understanding and harmony, taking care of your parents, the foundational ways of our people to live without which kindness can happen. And even when the people say, we will do and then we will understand, that expression, Naaseh v'nishma, it's really manifesting their belief in that love, that they, even though they couldn't quite understand it, they believed that it was true. So Sukkot is about joy, and Pesach is about freedom, and perhaps Shavuot on some level is about love. In the Torah, Shavuot was not about Sinai, but about the Bikurim, the first fruits that were brought to the temple. And as the farmers came, their declaration was a simple gratitude for what they had, for the goodness of being in the land, for their love for their God. So they would say, I have declared today before God our Lord that I have come to the land that God swore to our forefathers that he would give to us. My forefathers were subservient to an Aramean and went down to Egypt to dwell there. And there they became a great, powerful, numerous nation. And the Egyptians treated us harshly, torturing us and forcing us to do hard labor. And we cried out to God, the Lord of our forefathers. And God heard our cries, and God took us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And he brought us to this place, and he gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now behold, I have brought the first fruits of the land which God gave me. And the Bikurim were brought with that expression of love and great song and music and revelry, that spirit of togetherness, of unity that transcends all those divisions. Just what we all hope to find, the gratitude for the blessings that we do have. And what was the revelation about? It was about trying to instill in them those values that eventually would bear fruit within them and humanity, so that all of us could experience that love. We have that tradition that the revelation at Sinai was just a precursor for that day that is in so many visions of the prophets, when the shofar will again sound and love will fill the whole world. As Isaiah says, on that day Israel shall go out with joy, Tetzeh b'simcha, and be led forth in peace, and the mountains and hills shall break forth before you in singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. And then they'll hear that shofar blast, just as there were at Sinai. And so yes, the mountain shook, and there was that tremendous sense of awe of what happened, and yet it, and all of God's revelation, was really about shaking us out of our smallness, shocking us out of our grudges and pettiness, all the grand fancies that cloud our hearts and minds from the simple truths, and just to remind us of the simple goodness and kindnesses that simple people like us can live out even amidst the challenges of nations, and to remind us that this is why we do what we do, why we have the Torah, why we still live these laws and customs and ways of being millennia later, why we pass them down from generation to generation, from Sinai, from the shaking mountain, just to bring a little of that love, a little bit of that peace, a little bit of that understanding and harmony into our world, into our own lives, even when it feels impossible. Because knowing that love is at the core of that revelation, and that will continue to work its way as we too try and work our way to be a light unto the nations until it truly fills the world. Chag Sameach.